Trans Day of Remembrance 2021. Counting nearly 400 lives lost. 2021 has become an unfortunate record year for losses in our trans and non-binary communities worldwide.
The losses are due to complications of COVID-19, suicide, filicide, and murder.
Some of these people have been identified, some have not. Some are known only by a single name. One is known only by an initial of a dead name.
The names belong mostly to trans women of color, showing us yet again how violence against women is tolerated worldwide. The countries named show us how common it is for violence to be perpetrated against trans women in Brazil, which remains the country with the highest death toll in the world for their trans population, of which 90% are sex workers. Mexico falls just behind.
Some of these people supported their communities through activism, businesses, and professions. Some had supportive families, most didn't. Some had children and grandchildren, and some were children. Some were refugees and immigrants, out of home, sex workers, victimized by family members, acquaintances, and partners, living in poverty, victims of law enforcement violence and clinical neglect. Some took their own lives rather than continue to face bigotry and psychological suffering in the military, in schools, online, in prisons, and due to social neglect.
The experiences of those named remind that healthcare access and social services need more expansion worldwide, as does human understanding and elimination of phobias and stigmas too often used as an excuse for violent attacks.
Beyond the causes of their deaths, all should be remembered for who they were and how they bettered our communities.
We remember our folks from the USA. Haven A. Bailey, Illinois. Oliver Ollie Taylor, Oregon. Giselle Hartzog Hilton, Washington, D.C. Serenity Hollis, Georgia. Danny Prince Daniel Henson, Baltimore, Maryland. Alexander Blake Von Delson, Lafayette, Indiana. Samuel Edmund Demison Valentin, Punisher, Puerto Rico.
We remember our indigenous folks, Whispering Wind Bear Spirit, Shawnee and Potawatomi, York, Pennsylvania.
We remember our Black folks, Pierre Laprie Cartier, Arlington, Texas. Brianna Ulmer Hamilton, Renasty, Chicago, Illinois. Desea Monet Smith, Illinois. Dandara Brum, Brazil. Taya Ashton, Maryland. Grace Mahoro, Malawi, Africa. Nova Rue Watson, E.J. Boykin, Lynchburg, Virginia. Tiara Marie Lewis, Cleveland, Ohio. Dee Dee Thomas, New York. K.C. Wilson, Washington, D.C. T. Hardin, South Carolina. Carrie Bobo, Washington, Clearwater, Florida. Adalyn Evans, Port Arthur, Texas. Tiara Banks, Chicago, Illinois. Remy Fennell, Charlotte, North Carolina. Dominique Luscious, Springfield, Missouri. Jada Peterson, Charlotte, North Carolina. Diamond Kyrie Sanders, Diamond Nicole, Cincinnati, Ohio. Kimberly Tova Wirtz, Baltimore, Maryland. Jasmine Jazzy Wright, Ambridge, Pennsylvania. Jeffrey J.J. Wright, Ambridge, Pennsylvania. 50 Bands, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Dominique Jackson, Jackson, Mississippi. Bianca Muffin Banks. She hoped to compete on RuPaul's Drag Race, from Atlanta, Georgia. Natasha Kiana, Detroit, Michigan. Tiana Davaria Alexander, Chicago, Illinois.
We remember our Latinx folks. Zoella Zoe Rose Martinez, Zozo, Seattle, Washington. Ruby Dominguez, Arlington, Texas. Tiffany Thomas, Texas. Iris Santos, Houston, Texas. Kim Ramirez, New York. Brianna Pardo, Los Angeles, California. China Carrillo, New Wilmington, Pennsylvania.
We remember our South American folks. Paulette, Guanajuato, Mexico. Gina Rodriguez, Sinuiri, Peru. Ivana, Peru. Alessandra Drummond, Brazil. Duda Laif, Brazil. Luca Gomez Soto, Brazil. Kelly Dandara Alves, Brazil. Lorena Muniz, Brazil. J.F. Medina Hernandez, Mexico. Raquel, Brazil. Evelyn Montine, Brazil. Natalie Lilly, Brazil. Rebecca Sampaio, Rayan Santos de Matos, Brazil. Carolyn Moreau Champerle, Brazil. Paula Calderon, Mexico. Luana Mendez, Luana Pereira dos Santos, Brazil. Darla, Brazil. Dodo Bezerra da Silva, Brazil. Natalie Mendez Alves, Brazil. Lurani Lopez Leitao, Brazil. Merida Irlanda, Mexico. Mia Moraes, Brazil. Antonella, Colombia.
Camila Arcia, Colombia. Natalia Maldonado, Argentina. Guyana, Colombia. Heloisa Laura Ferreira, Brazil. Raquel, Brazil. Sue Ellen Carey, Brazil. Fernanda Alvarado, El Salvador. Pamela Larani, Brazil. Bruna, Brazil. Valentina Gomez, Venezuela. Mia, Mexico. Gil Gigi Mendez, Brazil. Sabrina Martins, Brazil. Malu Mejas, Chile. Badega, Brazil. Bru Waldorf, Brazil. Fabiola Rivera, Mexico. Itu dos Santos, Brazil. Victoria Vicky Nunez, Argentina. Eileen Sanchez, Mexico. Fatima Belen Barrios, Argentina. Roberta Silva, Brazil. Ravel Oliver, Brazil. Fabiana da Silva Lucas, Brazil. Kendra Gonzalez, Mexico.
Valeria Carrasco, Mexico. Maha Moreto, Brazil. Tatiana, Colombia. Crismili Perola, Piu Piu Bom Bom, Brazil. Isabella Garzon Monsalve, Colombia. Natasha Galvao, Brazil. Veronica Solano, Colombia. Adriana Diaz, Colombia. Maria Eduarda, Brazil. Bebe, Brazil. Wanda Soraya de la Fuente, Argentina. Pompea Ramos, Brazil. Shirley Mejia Sanchez, Colombia. Calindra Selva Guedes Noguera da Hora, Brazil. Jocelyn Alejandra Hernandez, El Salvador. Danielle Silva, Brazil. Michelle, Mexico. Nicole Xavier Acevedo, Brazil. Danny Benavides, Ecuador. Ligia, Brazil.
Catalaya Martinez Machado, Colombia. Diana Cervantes, Mexico. Santiago Sancinos, Argentina. Ainara Moraes, Brazil. Julieth Balmaceda, Colombia. Rubia Carvalho, Brazil. Claudia Madonna Ramirez, Colombia. Karencita Mejia Nunez, Honduras. Ilas Gama Nunez Andrade, Brazil. Laura Michelle, Colombia. Kendra Torres Galeana, Mexico. Roberta Fernandez, Brazil. Eliana Castillo, Colombia. Titi das Chagas, Brazil. S. Saira Mamani, Peru. Cielo de Luca, Argentina. Reine Reyrasaga Fernandez Villanueva, Peru. Jacqueline Savieri Silva, Brazil. J.S. Cardoso, Brazil. Luana Moraes, Brazil. Emanuele Castro, Brazil. F. de Assis Baraga de Oliveira, Brazil. Charlotte Escobar Ramos, Mexico. Silvana Gomez Galeano, Colombia. Andresa Santos, Brazil. Mona Lisa Lede, Brazil. Vicky Nieva, Argentina.
Yara Kumari, Yara Pereira dos Santos, Brazil. Melibeth Yulitza Marchena, Colombia. Yire Teresa Hurtado, Colombia. Stephanie, Brazil. Josefina Cruceno, Argentina. Sofia Michaela, Micah, Catan, Argentina. Kendra Zambrano, La Kendra, La Barbie, Mexico. Milena Masafera, Brazil. Marcia Marcita, Brazil. Fanny, Brazil. Pietra Valentina, Brazil. Jennifer Zapata, Mexico. Daniela Sirenita Riascos, Colombia. La Gasparina, Puebla, Mexico. Luana Katrina, Brazil. Drica Rodriguez Salas, Brazil. Alexandra Monteiro, Alexandra Correa de Oliveira, Brazil. Taina, Brazil. Michaeli Camara, Brazil. Natalie Sofia Martinez Gravados, Colombia. Fabiola Pamela Ramirez, Argentina. Lala Contreras, Nicaragua. Nicholas, Argentina. Andressa Pimentel, India, Brazil. Eva Carvalho, Brazil. Natasha Tabaz Gomez, Brazil. Alicia Rodriguez, Brazil. Gerusa Oliveira Reis, Brazil. Diana Miranda Paoli Ferrati, Mexico. Manuela Otto, Brazil.
Marcina Maquita Vaz, Brazil. Andrea Nestor Moreno Castillo, Colombia. Camila, Mexico. Ojuca Alves de Souza, Brazil. Nicole Fernanda, Brazil. Luna Abascal Getsemani Santos Luna, Mexico. Malevola Lessa Leticia, Brazil. Mimi Lessa Yasmin, Brazil. Natasha Santos, Brazil. Alessandra Ferrati, Bolivia. Angie Priscilla Genio Arevolo, Colombia. Giovanna Betancourt Vergara, Colombia. Giselle Sakai, Brazil. Caron Raka, student, Brazil. Andressa das Chaga, Brazil. Ursula A.S. Maravillosa became internet famous internationally when she turned a sidewalk in Porto Velo into a catwalk when she saw a camera from TV Alamanda, an SBT affiliate. Rondônia, Brazil. Amanda Mandi Fagundes, Brazil. Duda dos Santos, Duda dos Dantos, Brazil. Lucho Avila, Argentina. Lupita Moraes de Silva, Brazil. Igona Maura, interviewed by National Geographic in December 2020, Brazil. Diana Scarlett held a Miss Teen Beauty Pageant title, Tepic, Nayarit, Mexico.
We remember our folks from the Near East, Far East, Eurasia, Europe, and the UK. Ella, Iran. Nurai Nuriez, Baku, Azerbaijan. Tristan Fremont, France. Shafiq, Delhi, India. Kolejai, Pakistan. T. Vijay Kumar, India. Adrieli, Rome, Italy. Ambre, Audrey Istier, France. Pamela, Pam, refugee from Congo living in Turkey. A. Raza, Pakistan. Udu Zaman, Pakistan. Ebeng Mayor, Metro Manila, Philippines. Jie Bangkiao, Philippines. Gianna Lombardi, Italy. Aliyah, India. Bubbly, Pakistan. Paula Migion, France. Mumtaz, Pakistan. Niharika Narasim Hamworthy, India. Miras Gunes, Turkey. Milo Turner, Plymouth, Devon, UK. Byun-hee Soo, South Korea. Xingshu Xiao, Echt, Limburg, Netherlands. Nicholas, France. Dimitra Kaloganis, subject of 2 short films including Mr. Dimitri and Mrs. Dimitrula, a video interview by cinematographer Zeli Hajimitriou, Athens, Greece.
We remember our artists, professionals, and business owners. Sasha, designer and creator, Paris, France. Angelita Alves Correa, personal trainer, dance instructor, and online influencer, Portugal. Daisy Del Carmen, editor of the video game portal Atomics, involved in many projects in the world of gaming, Tamaulipas, Mexico. Sandy Crisp, the Goddess Bunny, actress, famous for viral video Obedece la Morsa, Obey the Walrus, and appeared in the Marilyn Manson video The Dope Show, Los Angeles, California. Ivana Macedo Silva, beauty specialist, Peru. Alexis Braxton, Kimmy Icon Braxton, hairstylist, Miami, Florida. Samantha, Sammy, Riano Morales, stylist, Tolima, Colombia. Solette, stylist, Guanajuato, Mexico. Kadir Murat Sözübür, singer, Istanbul, Turkey. Jesus Ochendio, La Ochendio, actor, humorist, and drag artist. Cook for the La Olita Community Dining Room, which distributed food for 200 families. His life ended before he could start teaching free theater classes at Casa Pueblo Unidos, the space for social, labor, and political training to which he belonged, Buenos Aires, Argentina. Naomi Alonso, stylist and human rights activist, Mexico. Natalie Smoot Lopez, drag queen, San Jose, California. Piper Autumn Rivers, Tegan Toxic, Tegan Last, adult industry performer, Army veteran who served in Afghanistan, Las Vegas, Nevada. Chris Brandon Ruiz, writer of poetry and music lyrics, Lompoc, California. Lola Santos, hairdresser, Brazil. Claire Montserrat Jackson, writer and illustrator, Ohio.
Ana Paula Lopes dos Santos, makeup artist, Brazil. Hu Johnson, makeup artist, Titanes Ermua, Louisiana. Carla Ariella, belly dancer and performer, Brazil. Coco Chanel Wortham, master cosmetologist, Dallas, Texas. Frei Mondo Batista Bodadilla, model and stylist, Mexico. Danizina Dani Fontini, model, Brazil. Valerie Pereira, beauty stylist, Honduras. Ivan Tuauletl, hairdresser, Iztapalapa, Mexico. La Garaca, kiosk owner, Ecuador. Elizabeth Rondon, vegetable seller, Venezuela. Erica Tatiana Martinez Garcia, small business owner selling drinks and food, Honduras. Michelle Gonzalez Cortez, Pitufa, beauty stylist, hairdresser, and salon owner, Venezuela. Cindy Jones Torres, salon owner, Philippines. Brianna Camila Espinoza Sanchez, Cami, hairstylist and salon owner, Yumbo, Valle del Cauca, Colombia. Juliana Santos, employed with Facebook app, Brazil. Professor Luciana Sandrella Alves, teacher, Colatina, Espírito Santo, Brazil. Dr. Patricia Targino Dutra, Basic Health Unit, UBS, of the community of Manimbu in São José de Mipibu, Brazil. Professor Fran Demetrio, leader, coordinator, and researcher of Lab Trans, and the first trans woman teacher at the Universidade Federal do Recôncavo da Bahia, Brazil. Ananya Kumari Alex, the first trans DJ in Kerala and the first trans person to seek election to the Kerala Legislative Assembly, India. Nir Bu, developer of the business, Egon, and RS gaming emulators, and advanced the world of SNES emulation, released their fan translation of Bahamut Lagoon, reviewed as the most exciting and meticulously crafted language adaptation of a video game of this era, Tokyo, Japan.
We remember our community caretakers, B, who raised funds for a rehab center in Zacatecas, Amelia Herrera Obrecht, Bau, Mapuche trans artist and activist who was trying to help defend indigenous land from encroachment, Panguipuli, Los Rios, Chile. Vida Bruno, historian and coordinator of policies and promotions of LGBTI+ citizenship for the city of Salvador, activist for human rights, co-founder of the LGBT Reference Center, Salvador, Bahia, Brazil. Devani Cardiel, trans ambassador for Guanajuato, Mexico. Valentina Vera Lopez, Kim, collaborator and activist of Movil Los Lagos, the homosexual integration and liberation movement, a Chilean human rights advocacy organization which focuses on civil rights and liberties for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender citizens, Puerto Montt, Los Lagos, Chile.
Michelle Almeida, student and colleague at Transvest, an NGO coordinated by City Councilwoman Duda Salabert that aims to combat transphobia and facilitate the inclusion of transgender people in society. Contagem, Minas Gerais, Brazil. Jane Elizabeth McQueen, activist lawyer, writer, photographer, and wife of Isabella Bella Bellucci, whom we lost in 2020, Manchester, UK. Jenna Franks, involved in the Onslow County LGBTQ+ Community Center, where she supported those experiencing homelessness, Jacksonville, North Carolina. Catalina Santos Arevalo, activist, Mexico.
Gala Ocampo Figueroa, activist for the rights of transgender people with Diversidad Sexual en Morelos, sexual diversity collectives, Amacuzac, Morelos, Mexico. Surya, transgender community leader in Malad, Mumbai, Maharashtra, India. Sneha, social activist for trans rights in India and member of the transgender Kudubamshri unit. In 2020, stood as an independent and the only trans candidate for the Kizuna ward of Kannur Municipal Corporation, the civic administration body of Kannur, Kerala, India. Larissa Lara Diekman, president of OLT, Orgullo y Luta Trans, Pride and Trans Fight. Advocate for the LGBTI population, activist for rights, social assistance, and cultural valuation, promoter of the Miss Transsex Nitorai pageant, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Shai Vanderpump, LGBTQ activist, New Jersey. Luisa Revilla Urcia, former mayor of the La Esperanza district of Trujillo, becoming the first transgender woman in Peru to be elected as a councillor. Trans activist for health rights, awarded by the provincial municipality of Trujillo in recognition of services to the trans community. La Libertad, Peru. Fanny Arguello Jacqueline Sanchez Sampiroli, human rights activist and founder of Diana Sakayan, Transformarse es Viver, Transforming is Living, AC. The organization put forward the trans identity law to guarantee the right to recognition of people's identity. Chiapas, Mexico. Neela Gupta, co-founder of Buys of Color, artist, activist, writer, cultural critic, specializing in race, class, gender, and disability issues. London, England. Andrea Gonzalez, activist, leader of the trans organization O Trans Reinas de la Noche, leader of an initiative of the Regional Human Rights Project, fellow of the State Department's International Visitor Leadership Program, collaborator with the United States Agency for International Development, and a key partner with Cristobal in Guatemala for LGBTQI+ justice work. Guatemala. Lise Lawrence, equality advocate, journalist, producer. Key member of the LGBT group Out for Independence, campaigner for the equal rights of minorities, Scotland. Luciana Moscoso, stylist and member of the Red Comunitaria Trans Community Network, Colombia. Vanessa Zuniga, volunteer for Asociación de Prevención y Educación en Salud, Sexualidad, SIDA y Derechos Humanos, APREST, Association for Prevention and Education in Health, Sexuality, AIDS, and Human Rights, Honduras.
Deborah Loven-Stein, former president of the Sierra Transvestite Union, candidate for councillor in Juazeiro do Norte by the Social Democratic Party, PSD, in 2020, Barbala, Ceará, Brazil. Ceci Caricia Hipata, Morenita, produced vendor and member of Red Trans, the national network of trans people that brings together trans groups throughout the Guatemala. Zashi Zueli del Cid Velasquez, makeup artist and beauty salon owner, grassroots activist with Colectivo Perla de Oriente, an organization that works to promote the rights of the LGBTI+ population in the eastern region of El Salvador, and have designed emergency routes to deal with the reports of attacks. San Miguel, El Salvador. Gloria Florencia Alves Marino, activist directly involved in the creation of laws to protect LGBT+ people, sex workers, and women, including the creation of the sex work law, the right to gender identity law, and the comprehensive law for trans persons. Activist for the prevention of sexually transmitted diseases, and against the sexual exploitation of girls, boys, and adolescents. In 1990, Gloria founded the first trans collective in Uruguay, called the Transvestite Coordination Board, currently the Uruguayan Trans Association. She's also worked as the Uruguayan coordinator of the Latin American and Caribbean Network of Trans People, Red Lac Trans, Uruguay. Oliver Jackson, Poe Delwyn Black, Legion, Tommy, activist for justice for Native, Black, and LGBT+ people, Tennessee and California. Madalena Leite, former city councilor, the first trans woman to be elected in the city of Piracicaba in the in the interior of Sao Paulo. Tiago Barros is producing a documentary about Madalena called Meu Nome é Madalena, Brazil. Sophie Gwen Williams, artist, musician, and trans activist. Chair of the 343, a Belfast-based charity and feminist-led queer art space. Co-founder of 343 Radio, the first ever queer radio station in Ireland. Co-founder of We Exist, an organization created to provide emergency support for transgender and gender nonconforming individuals in the UK, Northern Ireland. Raiza Toriani, founder and leader of the Red de Personas Trans de Bolivia, TREBOL, LGBT+ rights activist, political influencer, Bolivia. Nona Mosele Connor, program director for Collective Action for Safe Spaces, CAS, and their Decrim Now campaign, anti-harassment efforts, and Safe Bar Collective Jobs program for trans and queer people of color. Worked for Casa Ruby, where she helped clients through empowerment groups that addressed sex work, sexually transmitted infection prevention, and job training, Washington, D.C. Sophie Vasquez, participant with Esther Community, LLI, that defends the interests of the trans community in Atlanta so that they can achieve the recognition and access to social services that other groups enjoy, Atlanta, Georgia. Rainey Nina Merces, activist who work to defend the rights of the trans and prisoner populations in the Belo Horizonte region, a community social educator, worked with Fauna Trans, Forum Nacional de Travestis e Transexuales Negras e Negros, Miss Bahia Trans Plus Size 2021, Brazil. Danielle Danny Achia B, Boachi, Mistress Velvet, dominatrix activist who made her mostly well-off, straight, white, male clients read Black feminist theory texts during sessions. Executive Director for the Sex Workers Outreach Project USA, Director of Education and Training for Resilience, an Illinois-based nonprofit that advocates for survivors of sexual violence, Chicago, Illinois. Jahaira de Alto Balenciaga, activist, member of the ballroom community with the House of Balenciaga, advocate for equality and for victims of domestic abuse, YouTube vlogger focusing on social justice issues and inter-community conversations regarding trans women, speaker at the Ryan White Conference on HIV/AIDS at Harvard University, guest lecturer at Columbia University School of Social Work, speaker and organizer of the Trans Day of Remembrance, Boston, Massachusetts.
We remember those 33 whose names remain unknown, from Mexico, Brazil, Pakistan, Russia, Italy, Australia, and El Salvador.